Hello, everybody. It's Saturday night, and I have decided to do an impromptu Facebook Live with my dear friend, Dr. Michelle Robin, who is quite possibly the most positive person I know in the world. And I think we can all use a little bit more positivity and kindness and manifestation right now. So she's got this amazing campaign starting on October the 14th, which is totally free, called the 31 Days of Kindness. And I love it so much that I wanted you guys to know about it. So again, for those of you that just joined, I am with my dear friend, Dr. Michelle Robin. You can find her at smallchangesbigshifts.com. And she's got an amazing initiative, which is so needed right now because we're all so sad and lost and being angry and all kinds of stuff. It's called the 31 Days of Kindness. It's totally free. It starts on October 14th. I'm joining. So let us know where in the world you're watching from, what you want to learn about. All right, Michelle, tell us about how you came to decide that you were going to do this 31 Days of Kindness for free for everyone in the world.
Well, couple of ways. First of all, about 3 years ago, a friend of mine said, you have these other online programs, sleep, posture, free your space, how to live a calm and peaceful life. And I think we need a kindness program to match World Kindness Day, which happens to be November 13th. And Lady Gaga is big into that. And her name is Ann Kuntz. And I'm like, okay, Ann, sure. And I said, well, just give me some ideas. And so then I went to my team and I said, let's write this content. So we started doing 21 Days of Kindness. And I thought, you know what? It's our give back. It's our free program. And so, Tess, we've been doing that. And then, as you know, 2020 has been a shit show, right? Or a shift show, like I'd like to say. And a lot of my corporate clients have been saying, Michelle, what do we do about mental health? And so you were on my series where we did a series about rhythm and resilience. And I was doing that with my corporate clients. And they said, okay, what now what? We had a great response. And I said, well, if it was me, I would focus on kindness. Because you don't want to say how to not be depressed. How do you sell that? How do you have less anxiety? What you can say is what the studies show is when I'm kind to myself and I'm kind to others, it changes my brain chemistry. Those feel-good hormones, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. And so my client locked in, said, we're in. And so we're partnered together by the last 90 days. And we have really taken my 21-day kindness program that we had that was free. I always offered it free. And we made it a 31-day kindness program because we're in a little bit of a craziness right now. So that's the story. That's how it came about. And so we're here to create a ripple from the heartland.
So those of you that just joined, I am with my dear friend, Dr. Michelle Robin. You can find her at smallchangesbigshifts.com. You can join the 31 Days of Kindness for free. People from all over the world are joining. I'm joining. I think it is going to be so incredible and so needed right now. So you can join at smallchangesbigshifts.com/kindness. So, Michelle, what happens when we sign up, and what do we have to do to spread the kindness and feel better, and what's involved?
Well, here's the story. Every day you're going to get a little kindness quote. And so, like here, why don't you pick a number? Pick a number between 1 and 31.
21.
21. So you're going to get a quote for each day, and we'll play through this deck tonight. So the quote for day 21: it takes nothing away from a human to be kind to an animal. Okay?
Yep.
Got it? And then on day 21, there'll also be an act of goodness. I call it act of goodness or kindness act. And this is show your animal some love and kindness. And if you don't have an animal, you can show your neighbors or your friends, or you can go maybe volunteer. Now, volunteering is a little bit hard right now with COVID times. But and if you don't have an animal, you know what? You can maybe sit like I actually got a chance to go have dinner with some dear friends last night. We sat 6 feet apart, but I did just have a COVID test this week, so I'm COVID clear, at least this week. And they had a new puppy, and so we took their puppy some puppy love, So that is day 21. So each day you'll have a little act of kindness. And Tess, do you know the difference between ordinary and extraordinary?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you know the difference between ordinary and extraordinary?
What's the difference?
The little extra. And so being kind, it's little simple things. And so I'm curious because I know you had a dog, I've seen your, I know they're hard. They're the best of times and the worst of times when you lose them. So can you think of a time when someone was kind to your dog?
Yes.
Give me an example.
Yes. Gosh, my friends Joy and Jay, Cookie, our dog, she was very, very sick and she had a respiratory disorder, and they came over with all of these incredible ideas and bone broth and all this beautiful, these dog treats and all these beautiful things that they had made for her to love her up and make her feel better. And they came into our kitchen and showed us, what to do to make her feel better and for her not to be in so much pain. And it worked. It was so incredible. And, you know, I just have this image of Joy just holding Cookie in her arms like a baby. And she was Cookie. She was the sweetest dog ever. But yeah, no, it really makes a difference. It's, oh gosh. Yeah, it was amazing. So she died in our arms, in our backyard. The vet came to our house dreaming of slow moving squirrels. It was really pretty beautiful. It was a beautiful day, but obviously a very painful day. But yeah, for those of you that just joined us, I am with Dr. Michelle Robin. Her podcast is Small Changes, Big Shifts. You can find her at smallchangesbigshifts.com/kindness. We're talking about her 31 Days of Kindness campaign that starts on October the 14th. I'm joining. It's completely free. I think it is so needed and so incredible. And each day you get a quote. Can you show them the quote deck again, Michelle? A different quote for the 31 days.
It'll all be online unless they want to order a quote, but everything's free unless you decide you want to order a quote deck. So here's an example.
Practicing kindness toward others is one way of finding happiness we know works. So can you tell me what's on day 10?
Day 10. Well, first of all, I want to go back to when you thought of Cookie, and Cookie was the sweetest. How did you feel? Do you feel? I know it's sad, but don't you just feel different thinking about your friends and how great people are?
I do. They have actually been really good friends to me, and I can give you so many examples of how they've shown up for me and loved my family and my friends. And oh gosh, it makes me cry, but it's so beautiful. My heart is so full of love for them and memories of them. And yeah, it makes such a difference. And I love I love that the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a little extra. I think that's pretty beautiful.
And just reflecting. So as I've been thinking about, we're kind of cut from the same cloth. It's you do something and then you figure out how to make it better, and your spirit just talks to you. And so that's what my spirit was saying is think about, like, I could tell you stories about all these cards, right? And so you said day 10, and I just want you to know, I want you to feel, and I want our listeners from wherever you're at, and I'd love to hear from where you're at. I want our listeners to think about the conversation we're having and think about someone who was kind to you, and think about how it just lifts your spirit. And we'll talk about the science of that. So here's day 10. For it is in giving that we receive. And that's what's so cool about kindness is you give and you receive, but there's also magic to receiving. I think so many times, we're big givers, and you've done so much for me and shown up for me in so many different ways. But it's got to be a two-way street, and you've got to learn how to be a good receiver, else you take away the gift of somebody else being able to be a giver. And I know I love the feeling of giving, but I also don't want to be a selfish person and not let people give to me, and that's hard and a little uncomfortable, and I've had to work at that. So that's a quote. For it is in giving that we receive. And the act of kindness here is contribute to an organization or start a fundraiser online. Something I've been doing during COVID and is I'll see friends that are supporting different organizations, and I try to give to at least 2 or 3 organizations a week based on what my friends need support on online. And some days I'm like, Michelle, can you really afford to do that? And I'm like, can I afford not to? So that's a good way. And if you can't give of your money, maybe give of your time. Maybe you just share that somebody else is doing with your network. And so, like, what's one of your favorite organizations to give to, Tess?
I love No Kid Hungry. I mean,
I've never heard of that one. What is it?
Yeah. It's a big one. And they just make sure that children are fed. It's really great. So I mean, look, there's just so many good ones, isn't there? How did you come up with the 31 quotes and the 31 action items for the 31 Days of Kindness?
Well, like you, I have a great team. The acts of kindness, we we already had some, and we had to make them COVID friendly. We had to go through all of our content, make sure it was COVID friendly, and it's just things that we like to do. And so we just would talk about it. We're like, oh, does that feel right? Or so it's teamwork. They say teamwork makes the dream work, and so that's part of it. And then we just Googled kindness quotes, and I had some already because I'm a quote nerd, and we just figured out what kind of works together. It's not that hard, Tess.
What's your favorite one out of the 31?
Oh, I'm going to give you one that has really directed my life. And, what I'm thinking about doing, and I'm going to have a free consultation because you are a whiz at this stuff. So I'm just going to pretend no one else is here with us. So, Tess, we've had our own journeys, right? We've all had our journeys. And when I was in college, in junior, and then actually my senior year in college, I was taking a psychology class, and we had to read a book. And I actually still have the essay, which I don't keep a lot of stuff, so it's amazing I still have the essay, but I actually scanned it in. And it was a book by Leo Buscaglia. Have you heard of Leo Buscaglia? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Leo Buscaglia is a professor. I'm not sure if he's USC or UCLA, but somewhere out there by you. And the story was about a boy or a man that had written a letter, and it basically said, in a nutshell, if somebody smiled at me, I wasn't going to jump. I would not jump today off the bridge. Well, no one smiled at him, and he jumped off the bridge. And I remember that story, Tess, I'm getting ready to be double five, so hard to believe. But, I was all of 21, and reading that book changed me at a soul level. You never know what message you're going to get, okay? So one of my favorite quotes of all time, because that has stayed in my heart. And so, and you're with me, you're like this too. We'll be walking to a restaurant or walking on the streets. What do? We look at people in the eye and we smile at them, right? Whether we have masks on or not now, because you never know what people are going through. And we got to see people from our soul, from our soft eyes, looking into their soul, and not roll to roll. And so many times it's you against me. And what we're learning more than ever, none of us is getting out of your life. How can we do this together? So that's a long answer to your question, but this is probably one of my favorite quotes of all time. It's by Leo Buscaglia. Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. That's probably one of my all-time favorites because it takes me back to reading that book. And, I was a sad kid. I was the walking dead until about the age of 32. And I think I must have felt that connection to that soul, just not really feeling like they matter. And so I would tell you day 10, that quote is probably my favorite.
And what was the turning point? Because you are literally now the most positive person that I know. So what was the turning point at age 32 that made you go, my life's work is going to spread positivity and heal people and listen to people and make their story better?
Well, I believe I think the whole journey set me up for it. Because there's people I can tell you stories, like there's a card in here, and we'll probably get to it in our conversation. But at 31, August of 1997, Tess, I was walking around dead. I had this great life. I had a beautiful house. I had a relationship. I had a rock star office practice. 31 years old, I was having a life far better than I ever thought I'd have, and I started sabotaging it because I didn't think I deserved it. Who the hell am I to have this type of life? And so I really started sabotaging it, and I actually talked to a minister friend of mine, Mary Ellen Wake, and she said, you have no joy. And I kept looking for joy outside of myself, and trying to get it from somebody else. And if you keep looking for the outside world to affirm you, you're not going to win. It's got to be an affirmation inside. You've got to get reconnected to the divine essence of how we were created to be. And so I went and did the Hoffman process, which you know about, and spent 7 days and got right with myself. I got clear with my mother. I got clear with all the fathers in my life. It took me a while longer, but I started developing compassion for them, but most of all, compassion for myself. And so when you develop compassion for yourself, then you just figure out, everybody's struggling. So how do we help people on this? Life is so short, Tess. Have you read the book 20,000 Days?
I have not read that book.
Have we ever talked about 20,000 Days?
No.
So I was listening to this book. I was in Hawaii probably 10 years ago. I remember I was doing a walk in Kauai. I was there with my friends, Paul, and they were doing whatever, sitting at the pool, and I was walking around because I don't sit very well. And unless we're in the spa. That
was a good trip in Mexico. Yeah.
So there's a book called 20,000 Days. And if you live to be 54 and about 8 or 9 months, it's 20,000 days. Guess when my 20,000 day is? January 2nd, 2021.
Yeah.
And life is so flippin' short, people. It is too short for us we need to be concerned about what's happening. But one way to kind of stop it is to say, what can I do today? I could be a positive influence in the world today by doing these little things. And so Hoffman helped. And then dialing into my inner wisdom, and then all the people that have poured into me. You've poured into me. You showed up my 50th birthday, for goodness sakes, and made these delicious stuff, and we had such a fabulous time. And our trips to Mexico, and I think about my friend Sonia, who just had a birthday, and we sent her a video laughing about this really trip we took to Honduras. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. And so we were laughing about it. And then we had to do a course correction trip. And, if you just can take a deep breath and say, God, thank you for the magnificence of the moments I've had. The good ones far outweigh the bad ones. And so I would say that's part of it.
I love that. So for those of you that just joined, I am with Dr. Michelle Robin. She's got an amazing podcast, Small Changes, Big Shifts. You can find her at smallchangesbigshift.com/kindness and join her 31 Days of Kindness campaign that starts on October the 14th. I'm going to do it. You get a quote every day and an action item every day. And I think it's just such a good reminder, to get into the habit of I'm kind to all the people in my life and the people that I touch every day. But I'm joining because I'm going to start doing more random acts of kindness, to just people that I don't know, like just someone that I see at the grocery store at 6 a.m. or something like that, And we smile at people, we open the door for people, we have a little chit chat, we're in the line for things. Obviously we're not doing that as much now with the social distancing, but it is I love random interactions with strangers. I call them because you never see the people again, ever, right? But they can actually be really profound, you and I travel a ton, both of us speaking all over the world and that sort of stuff. I have sat next to people in planes, in airport lounges, in restaurants around the world, waiting for buses around the world, waiting for cars. Just everywhere, standing in the line at a concert or whatever, and you just have these lovely, funny interactions with people you're never going to see again, right? And yet, so many of them actually touch your heart, and you do actually log those memories, and they do change you. And I really like what you're saying about a lifetime of cumulative experiences that fill up your well and fill up your heart and actually prompt you to be a better person and to keep striving and growing and opening and blossoming and learning, And so, I do think that campaigns like what you're doing are so powerful because, we want to keep in the habit of doing that, for each other, of just, it's so easy to just make the angry choice and close yourself up to the possibilities that people are going to put their best foot forward. And particularly at the moment in this current climate where everybody's afraid, we're in a global pandemic, particularly in the United States, we're more divided than we've ever been. It's just a really challenging time, in so many ways, and we can't, I have not touched another human being since January. And one of my love languages is physical touch, right? So it's been really challenging. And so, it's just about rethinking. I'm going to exercise my other love languages, which is what I've been doing, right? So I really love what you're saying. So, what's What's your love language? Like, what's your favorite way of practicing kindness on a daily basis? You're definitely a words of affirmation person for sure, and you just randomly send things, and I know what it is. But what when you were talking about the giving and receiving, I think we're fed in both ways, and I thought it was interesting, because up until gosh, I want to say about 15 years ago, I really fell into that trap of thinking that giving and taking was a transactional thing between two people only, right? You get into that trap where you realize that the energy of the universe is all shapes and directions. And, I might give randomly to someone at the grocery store today, and then someone else is randomly going to give to me. Or I may be able to give to my friend today, and then some other person in my life is going, and we're all just going to keep spreading the love, and I think that we can fall into this trap of the expectation that if you give to somebody, they're going to immediately give back to you. So we have to have the expectation that giving is its own reward, and the act of giving is self-love and love for somebody else, and the act of giving really is something that you want to be doing, but I do think that your comments about the receiving really resonated with me, because I'm not as good about receiving as I am about giving. And I have to be very, very mindful of that. Like, I like to give and give, but I feel like I'm being a burden on others if I receive, even though, I know intellectually, I just know that that's not the way that it is. It's my default position is to give and not receive. So, I think that's something, I'm going to be more mindful of that throughout the 31 days of kindness.
Well, that's great. And I would ask your audience to challenge you and help and give you and help you receive.
Okay.
Because you're so generous with everything you give to people. You give them recipes, you give them your time, you give them your ear. And so I'm going to encourage your audience. I'm going to challenge them to step up and really support you on that. I want to share a couple of statistics with you, Tess, and I want to also share a story. So remind me to tell you the story about my friend Paul Young, okay?
Okay.
So let's come back to that. But here's what I want you to know, why this is so important. This is why our world needs this kindness. I want to tell you, Tess, every day I get an SOS, whether it's in person or a phone call. So today, it's Saturday at 10 o'clock this morning, someone calls me on my cell and says, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I would like to talk to you about my daughter. My daughter needs to be probably committed. She wants to cut on herself and blah, blah, blah. She's not my patient. She's a patient of the center, but she called me. And so when I got done seeing patients, I called her, and, we are in a crisis. It is and we had a mental health crisis before this, and that I had 4 suicides in 1 year of my personal patients in 1 year. Good news is I've not had one since, but it was like the universe was talking to me. And here's what I want our audience to know. The anxiety disorder has seen a 25.5% increase versus an 8.1% increase in 2019. Depressive disorders, 24.3% increase versus 6.5 in 2019. Suicidal ideation has seen a 10.7 versus 4.3% growth since in 2019. There's so much that we could shift with this kindness movement. It has the ability to transform our world. I want people to get it's that big. And it's that big because when you are kind to someone else or you're kind to yourself, there's 3 hormones: oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. And, oxytocin is the glue in relationships. It's like when we see each other and we're able to hug each other, we're able to love on each other and just share that oxytocin. It gets a deep meaning and importance of life. And then you've got dopamine. When dopamine is low, is you have self-doubt and low enthusiasm and low self-esteem. And that's what a lot of our young people are dealing with. Not just our young people, but our older people too. And then if serotonin is that loneliness and depression, and it gives you that vicious cycle. I've got a client, he was in a cycle the other day, and he was just in a loop, and I just wanted to slap him out of it. I'm like, hello, let's get out of this. But he just couldn't, because he was in such a loop because he has low serotonin. And so that's why it's so stinking important that we do things like this. And so now I'm going to tell you this fun story, and then I'll let you ask me another question. So first of all, my love language is service, acts of service. So, Crystal's traveling. when she comes home from Hoffman after that week, I have the dogs are clean, the house is clean, there's groceries, there's food ready to eat, the car's clean, it's gassed, and that's what I do. Because I'm lickety split. You're fast, I'm fast too. We just get stuff done. So active service probably is my number one, and probably number two is affirmations. But so 7 years ago, this week actually, I was in a pretty dark space. I was selling my house. Remember when I sell my big house? And we actually had a conversation that week as well, and it was kind of melting down. I had some, whatever, I think selling a house is one of the most stressful things. And my mentor, Dr. Richard Yenny, was in the middle of final stages of his life, making his transition, and I was driving to St. Louis. So house was, and Chris was at Hoffman, so house was kind of imploding. I'm like, what the F is going on? I'm really struggling. I stopped by and see Dr. Yenny. Last time I saw him, he died on my way actually to St. Louis. And then I get to St. Louis for this conference, and I sit by a guy named Paul Young. Have you heard of Paul Young?
Mm-hmm.
He wrote the book Shack. And I had no idea who he was. I'm sitting by him, and he was so kind and just a lovely human being. And we became friends forever. And talk about sitting by somebody. And here's an act of kindness for Paul. And I'm going to encourage you all, if you have not gotten the book, it's one of the best books ever, and there's a great movie about it. But have I told you this story, Tess? Maybe.
No, tell me.
So Paul is broke. He's working 3 jobs to get by. He doesn't have money to buy Christmas presents for his kids, and his wife says to him, "You know what? Why don't you write a story for the kids for Christmas this year? You've got this long train ride to one of your jobs. Why don't you write a story? Because you think about life differently." Paul was a missionary's kid, and he was sexually violated by a missionary. And so his thought of religion and all that has a different twist. And so, but long story short, and you got to read the book, it's just a game changer. I remember exactly where I was at when I was reading it and didn't want to put it down. And he had no money. He had no money to even print the book. And, they needed some things for Christmas, and somebody happened to ask a friend, I feel called to give money to somebody. And you all have this. You feel a nudge from a person you need to call, or I want to give somebody this, or, I want to buy the person this coffee behind me. And people have that. And so somebody went to a friend who said, you know what, there's this family that lives on the corner of this street. They live in Portland, and they live on this corner in this house. They could really use your money. So this guy put 5 20s, fresh 20s, in an envelope and slid it under the door Christmas Eve. Okay. And so Paul, they get the money, and they're able to go get a few things they need for Christmas Day. And they have enough to print copies of his book at Kinko's for the kids because of that money. Okay. A random act. Here's how random it was. Years later, his book becomes world known. In some country, picks it as the book of the year. And they called Paul and said, look, we picked the Shack as book of the year, and we're going to come to Portland, and we're going to film your story. And he said, but here's the deal. We're going to bring the producers, but we need you to find the film crew. We're not going to bring our film crew. And so Paul calls a friend who says, oh, yeah, I would love to help you. He said, what's the date? Oh, I can't help you. And then he says, but call so-and-so. So-and-so can help you. And so-and-so, I'd love to help you. I mean, this is Paul Young, the author of The Shack. Sold multi-million-dollar copies of his book. And the guy says, oh, I'd love to help you, but he can't help. The date doesn't work. He said, well, call this guy. I get chills telling you the story. This is God talking to me. And so he calls that guy, and that guy says, where do you live? Where? And it's not where Paul is now, but it's at the house. So they go back to the house. He was the guy that gave him the 520s. Whoa. So you never know what little impact it's going to have when you feel called to give. So 7 years ago, I got a chance to meet Paul, sit by Paul, experience his total kindness, genuineness, authenticity. And he loved me like a brother when I was so broken that weekend. And so that's a story for you.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've had some pretty crazy stuff happen to me, just randomly meeting people. I had a plane ride where I was getting on the plane in Los Angeles, and I was at my most broken. and I was going home to my family because, you know, my marriage had broken up and some extremely traumatic things have happened, as you know. And I had sunglasses on, like, I mean, just crazy. I never do this, but I could not stop crying. So I had sunglasses on at 11:30 at night in the airport in Los Angeles. And I was the last person on the flight. And there was two guys standing there, and I could just sort of see them from the waist down. And you know, I don't know, someone from Qantas or whatever said, "Hold on just a second, just wait here, the three of you, and we'll close the doors and then we'll escort you onto the plane." And I looked up and I went, "What is going on?" And I look up and it was this pretty famous singer and his tour manager, I now know, right? And I just went, "Oh no, I can't believe this." And they were so lovely. They said, no, this is so funny. Like, they think that you're with us. You know, it was just hilarious. Anyhow, so we get on the plane and there's only 2 seats left in our section, right? And I sit down and the tour manager, his name's Richard, we're still friends, he had the seat next to me. And so oh wow, oh my God, this is so hilarious, ha ha ha, you know. But it's, you know, by this stage it's midnight, you know, everyone's putting their beds down and their and we take off and whatever. So we have our drink, you know, we're eating our dinner, and he just looks at me, and I've still got my glasses on because I just can't stop crying, right? And he says to me, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to pry, but are you all right?" Anyway, long story short, we chat, we go to sleep, we wake up, we chat. And they were in Australia for, gosh, I don't know, maybe two or 3 weeks. And he called me every single day. They, you know, called to check on me and make sure that I was okay. And I went to the concerts and I just had such an amazing time. I took my sister, she was 9 months pregnant. I'll never forget. It was such a turning point, you know, because we connected and he had told me about some stories about, you know, his wife and family and his children, and he was just so kind to me, and they were so kind to me. And it was pretty amazing. And like I said, we're still friends. But yeah, I mean, that was certainly the lowest point, where that 16-hour flight back to my family was the longest, you know, 16 hours of my life, you know, and I couldn't get back to my family fast enough because, you know, I had been in intensive care and I'd been through this very traumatic experience. And yeah, that was, it was huge. But, you know, so many other, you know, smaller things, but that's the biggest one that comes to mind, where I didn't know these people at all, you know, and they didn't want anything from me. There was nothing sleazy or weird about it. Do you know what I mean? They just knew that I was going through something that they could both relate to. It was pretty extraordinary. Yeah. So
it'd be interesting for the people listening today is to maybe put in the chat a story in their life, and I think as you think about those little things, it really will help you shift your vibration, and it'll create this, like I said, as a ripple. I call it, you know, I live in Kansas City and it's the heartland, and we're going to create this vibrational ripple, east and west and north and south, and that's what this whole campaign's about. Let's focus on what really matters, and that's relationships and the good stuff. I mean, so I think of most people, I know people have had bad stuff happen. Trust me, you know, 2 of the questions I ask in my consultation: what's the worst thing that's happened in your life? And I followed up with what's the best thing. Test the things I hear. Woo! You know, it's crazy. But, you know, there's so much good. So then I want people to think about what is good. So that's when you think about, like, pick another number. Let's do another number.
ooh, let's do day 31. How we're ending.
Oh,
Is that too much?
Let's end with day 31.
All right. Okay. Ooh, what's one of my other favorite numbers? 16. Sweet
What day?
16.
Oh, I picked. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. All right. 16. Ready? Here's the quote. It's by Kathy Calvin. Giving is not just about the donation, it's about making a difference. Okay. Give away items you don't use anymore. So Tess, here's something great about you. When you come to your house because you have all these cool sponsors. You always have stuff around your house, whether it's a vitamin, a blend, whatever, who's ever sponsoring you this week. I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong name, but which one's your favorite right now? I've got
No, I'm not sponsored by anybody anymore, and I'm not working as a consultant with anybody anymore. So that part of my life is done. I feel really good about that. But
what about the produce lady?
In the past, you're right. I've had a lot of brand partners, a lot of book tour sponsors. I've worked with a lot of different companies as an ambassador and as a spokesperson, as a consultant. And you're right. In the past, I have had some very cool stuff in my house for sure.
You got extras, and so you share it. So that's cool. But it's also thinking about, I've got the best cleaning lady. She's been with me for probably 15 years. Her name is Cleopatra. And what's so sweet is, I try to, I don't honor this all the time. I try to something in, something out, because I really don't like clutter. And so, and I'm a shoe fanatic, not nice shoes, but just comfy shoes because I stand all day.
I know you do have a good collection of comfy shoes.
And so, my shoes really don't get worn out because I change shoes pretty often. I remember the days when I'd have the same pair of sneakers for, 18 months. And now it's like, 4 to 6 months just because our feet are so important. Talk about taking care of yourself. So anyhow, what do you have that you could shift that might be good for somebody else? So that was day 16.
I love it. All right, let's end with day 31.
Okay. Well, hang on. Before we do that, I want to tell people what kindness does for them, just so.
Oh yeah, please do, because I think that the studies about this are really very, very interesting. So yeah, so for those of you that just joined us, I am with Dr. Michelle Robin. She runs an amazing podcast. I shouldn't say hosts, called Big Change, Small Changes, Big Shifts. So you can find her at smallchangesbigshifts.com/kindness. And the 31 Days of Kindness starts on October 14th, this coming week. I'm joining. It's completely free. You get a quote every day, a little action item. I just think it's just something fun to do, and I just wanted you all to know about it, all right? So let us know what happens inside our body when we do good.
Yeah, and also too, we'll be telling stories about kindness. It's been so fun. By the way, Time Magazine put out a special edition this fall on kindness, and I've got it over there, so I'm not going to grab it. But more energy, longevity, of course, positivity, fewer aches and pains because of endorphins, our body's natural painkillers, greater optimism, more self-confidence, less stress. You sleep better, slows down aging, lowers your blood pressure, lowers anxiety and depression. So it'd be fun to hear from your audience after the 31 days or during it. They can feel free to reach out to me and say, hey, Michelle, I heard you with Tess, and here's a story about my random act of goodness or kindness that I shared and how it changed me. So it's such little things. I want to tell you a story before I give you number 31, Tess, if you don't mind. It's just been heavy on my heart today. And when I was a kid, I lived in Southern California. I don't know if you know that, from the age of 3 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved every 2 years. But when I lived there, and it's one of the days in here, and you'll know this about me, but I had a babysitter. Her name was Maggie Mountain. And Maggie, she had a son. His name is Tim. He's alive. I actually tried to call him today. So Tim, if you're watching this, I want you to text me your number because your number's changed, or DM me. So Maggie, Tess, it is kind of emotional. Maggie sent me a birthday card every year, even though I left when I was 9. And she passed away when I was in my early 40s. And it was right before a big event. I used to host this big fair at my office every year after my 10-year anniversary for about 4 or 5 years, where we do this big citywide health fair and have like 1,000 people there. And Maggie happened to pass away 3 days before that big event. Tess, I got on a plane and flew to San Diego and went to her service, and I got right back on a plane and flew home the same day because of how much she touched my soul. She sent me a birthday card, and she wouldn't just send me a birthday card, happy birthday, Maggie. She would write me a note and she had such good penmanship, not like my own, and she'd write me a note. And so you probably know this. I make birthday calls. So before I got on with you today, I called my patients for their birthday this weekend. And someone said, I knew you would call me today. She's turned 31. I've known her since she was probably 7. And though there's little things, and you got to find out, and this ties into day 31, you got to find out what's your medicine. And so day 31, and by the way, Tess, I love you. Thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing your audience with me, because you are a magician at this stuff. And for always being so kind and showing up for me. You know, I have this rule about lifetime relationships, and I'm a people collector, and now we've been friends now since 2010. Is that hard to believe? So we have a 10-year anniversary this year. And I have 4 rules. One is show up for people. And so if you're listening, is you got to think about showing up for people, and you got to think about who shows up for you. You know, it's sometimes we worry about who doesn't show up for us, and we waste our energy on that. But I want you to put your energy to think about today, who showed up for you. And it may not be who you think it is. And the next one is be go-givers. How can you help people get to where they're trying to go? And the more you help people get to where they're trying to go, the more you'll get to where you're supposed to go. I believe we're all going to get to where we need to go. We just have to have the right yes, the right no's. And this is your word, Tess. I got this from you. It's celebrate others. You know, and now in my podcast, I talk about celebrate others, and that's because of you. I'm going to give you all the credit for that. And how can you celebrate people in your life that really lift you up, and make a list of those people. And during these 31 days, do what you can do to help lift their spirits. And number 4 on LTRs is do one-on-ones. You build relationships, and maybe it's via Zoom right now, or, you know, I'm in Kansas City. We've got some space. And so I'm walking with people, but I'm telling you, one-on-ones will help you get to people's soul. I have a friend that we've been getting to know each other better over the last, actually went for a walk, and then we played pickleball last week, and then her sister, who's been ill, died. And I just, my heart hurts for her. But I would not have known what she was going through had I not taken the time to have one-on-ones. So that's the LTR. So day 31, it's emotional. How you love yourself is how you teach others to love you. And so, and taking the time to do the work to love yourself. And that's part of that. That's day 31. That's the quote for the day. And here's the Actness Kind. And on the kindness campaign, you're going to get a sheet that you can mark on every day. And on the deck, it has a little check on the bottom and your reaction number. Because there's some things that you're doing and you don't know but your jam or not. And then there's things where you thought, oh my gosh, this is my jam. I'm going to tell you, I love to make birthday calls. Okay, my partners, not a chance in heck. They'll write a note, but I love to make birthday calls. And it goes back to my father. I never knew him. We only had a phone conversation. It goes back to Maggie. I know where it goes. And that's another thing. Ask yourself, why do I think this way? And so through this process, we want you to start to figure out what's your medicine. So day 31 is discover what acts of kindness brought you joy. Because I find that I think we judge ourselves. And Tess, you know, I had that bad accident 5 years ago, and you called me, I think, about every day. Thank you for that. You text me, call me, send me love, because you were in California. I was in Kansas City. Tess, you know, I moved every 2 years. I don't have a lot of lifetime friends. You know, 10 years is a big deal for me, but to have a friend for 10 years, because I moved every 2 years until I moved to Kansas City to go to chiropractic school. And I moved to Kansas City knowing one family in 1988. So 32 years ago, one family. And Tess, when I got hurt, so many people showed up for me, and not the people I thought would. It was other people. And people would come to my house and they'd bring me food, or they'd call me, what do you need? Or they would bring me bone broth or juice, or healers would call me and say, I want to come give you a healing session. It was the craziest thing when I look back on it. But I found before that I would judge myself, because I'm not the type of person that could drop everything and take you to the doctor, because I have patients, you know, and I'm scheduled out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And you can't say, you know, you got to put, you know, if you call me and say, can you do something at 10 o'clock next Monday, I probably could say, I really can't unless I need to, and I have to reschedule patients. And I'm not opposed to doing that, but it's not really great for other people, because other people need you as well. but we all have our own medicine. We have what we're good at. And so I want people to find out through this 31 days of kindness is, what is your medicine? What did God put in your soul? Whether it, for me, it's listening to the nudge of reaching out to a friend. It could be, I've got people, I have had COVID. COVID is creeping in on all of us. And so if I have friends that have COVID, either myself or one of my team members, we drop them off some bone broth and maybe some collagen and some zinc or vitamin C, whatever they need. That's what I can do. I'm not the person that can take you to your chemotherapy. It's just not my life. And so I've given myself grace now because I know what my medicine is. So that's day 31.
Yeah, I really love that. Yeah, I call it "What's your superpower," but I actually think I like medicine better. Like, what's your medicine for the world? What medicine can you? What medicine is inside you to help heal others and help nourish others and lift them up? And I think that time, you almost died. That was scary. That bike accident that you had. And I know it was a huge pivotal turning point in your life, because it forced you to slow down and reevaluate. And, you have been changed forever because of that accident. But, not that it's about reciprocity or expecting things or whatever, but the community showed up for you because you had been a light keeper for so many people, and people genuinely wanted to love you and lift you up and stuff, So, I'll say that to you. And thank you for the way that you show up for me all the time, Such amazing memories, such 10 years of amazing memories. So, yeah, thank you so much. I love what you're doing so much. Yeah.
That's that receiving is super hard. So you're exactly right. And it's humbling, but, and so I want you, okay, everybody else is not listening right now. I want you to receive back. I hope you heard, I learned the word celebrate from you. I am a better person celebrating people because of you. Okay. I'm drinking my lemon water with a straw because of you. I'm gargling, because of you. There's so much you've given me. I am using hemp hearts because of you. There's so much, and I want you to feel so full from this conversation, from the love you have given to me and everybody else. The good news is we get to share clients because of all the work you do, the global work you do, and they say to me all the time, "Thank you for sharing Tess with us. Thank you."
Well, that's very sweet, and you send so many lovely emails and text messages and calls sharing that with me. But thank you for sharing again, and I'm taking it into my heart tonight. Thank you so much, and thank you for your gifts and your medicine and the way that you help so many people. It's such a gift, and I 10 years. Here's to the next 10, and the 10 after that, and the 10 after that, and the 10 after that. For those of you watching tonight, I am so happy. If you have not seen one of my previous Facebook Lives or interviews with Michelle in the past, I'm so happy you know about her and her work. She's truly special and extraordinary. And you can find her at Small Changes, Big Shifts. That is her podcast. It's so heartwarming, and she has so many fantastic guests in her network of just extraordinary people, authors, medical practitioners, light keepers, all kinds of incredible people. So you can find out more at smallchangesbigshifts.com. And then you can sign up for the 31 Days of Kindness. It's totally free, and you'll get, show the little cards again if people do want to actually get them in the mail, which is an option, right? You can get them for free digitally just through email. But Michelle has all these amazing, I actually have these by my bed, your little quote decks, which I love so much from the podcast. But here's the open ones that I keep by my bed, and I read one when I wake up in the morning. They're just the greatest things ever. And when you stay at Michelle's house, she is a quote nerd, and she has quotes and stones and pictures and amazing books everywhere. And it is very, I do feel topped up like a plant that's been watered every time I come and stay with you. It's so fabulous. So no, thank you so much for being such an amazing, spectacular human. Sign up for the 31 Days of Kindness. It's going to be so amazing. It's totally free, and I think it is so needed right now. And spread some love, spread some kindness. I think it's just incredibly powerful, and not just for the other people in the world, but for yourself. But I love that you ended day 31 with loving yourself and discovering what your medicine is, which is just so one of your superpowers. You know, when I interviewed you for my monthly wellness call for the cooking club and the 60-day reset, oh, the emails and the love, what people got out of that call in the 60 community was extraordinary. So thank you so much. You're amazing. I love you. I hope that this just explodes on October 14th, the 31 Days of Kindness. I hope you collect so many inspiring stories. I cannot wait to be part of that community. I cannot wait to share my stories with you. I can't wait to hear the stories of others. Such a fantastic, fantastic initiative and so needed right now. All right. So join the 31 Days of Kindness. It's totally free at smallchangesbigshifts.com/kindness. And if you are in the Kansas City area, definitely check out Michelle's Wellness Center. It's pretty extraordinary. Your Wellness Connection in Kansas City. All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. You're amazing. Mwah.
Love you, friend. Heart to
Love
heart.
you. Love you. Bye.